A few things before we get started. If you're wondering why I'm holding a tiny microphone, well, some of you people were complaining about the audio quality in some of my past videos, and well, I resolved that problem. Also, if you're wondering what the fuck took me so long to make this video, well, I'm sorry. I love you. Now, if you know absolutely anything about me at all, you'd know that instead of having a heart, I have a black hole in my chest. And in that black hole-shaped cavity, there's only enough space for me to love two things, and two things only. Breakfast foods and thick-hipped brown women. A balanced breakfast containing all of the food groups is actually the most important way to start the day. We're not here to talk about breakfast so much as we're here to talk about a restaurant where you can get breakfast. There is one restaurant that is so epic that it managed to transcend straight into the cultural zeitgeist and become an American institution.
Hi, welcome to Chili's.
That's not even a breakfast restaurant. You have got to stay focused, my brother. Ladies and gentlemen, I have gathered you all here today to talk about Denny's. To me, Denny's exists as a distant memory, a place that I barely remember because the one closest to where I grew up no longer exists. As a matter of fact, finding a Denny's close to where I live without having to go out of state is kind of a tall order, yet the company keeps expanding. And how?
Hey, Vsauce, Michael here.
Denny's has somehow still managed to stay relevant, even with IHOP's International House of Burgers controversy, which had us all in the first half.
I'm not gonna lie.
And Waffle House employees going viral for going to battle with drunk customers at 2 a.m. So with all of that competition, how exactly do you still manage to stay relevant? Well, first off, my name's Jermaine. Thank you for tuning back into the JNN. And without further ado, let us begin. Now, the Denny's menu is quite famous. The most recognizable item on that is Grand Slam. Simple, elegant, fucking slice of heaven unto itself. And the coffee, well, the coffee is to die for. Just like how Coca-Cola no longer has actual cocaine in it just to give you that little extra zest, that little zing you need to get you through your day. Denny's actually no longer serves one of its most top secret menu items. Racism. Picture this. Now, the year is 1991, and it is the birthday of one Rachel Thompson of Vallejo, California. She is turning 13 years old today. Many of you may already know that a lot of restaurants actually offer up a free entree or a dessert for your birthday. Denny's actually offers up a free Grand Slam. The only catch was that you need to show them some form of ID confirming your date of birth. So keep that in mind here because it's actually a very important part of the story. Rachel's dad wakes her up to a happy birthday and a surprise. Get dressed, her dad probably says to her. We're taking the birthday girl to Denny's. Amazing. They hit the road. Rachel, knowing that she'd need some form of ID to confirm that today was her birthday, came prepared with both her baptismal certificate and school ID. As a reminder, she was only 13. The manager actually refused both. As a matter of fact, it caused a very embarrassing scene as other dining families were staring at them because the rest of the staff came over, gathered around their table, reportedly shaking their heads and screaming. Now, this story here is just setting the tone because it actually gets much worse. Picture this. A very important 21-man security detail are allotted less than an hour to eat lunch before returning back to work. Their restaurant of choice? Denny's. They all efficiently pack into their vans, head down the road for a quick Grand Slam and some coffee. When they got there, the men all ordered in rapid procession, and despite the fact that a party of 25 men had all come in with no reservation, all of the men still received rather quick and exceptional service. All except 6. When they had noticed, they got there at the exact same time as the 15 other men on their detail, who are now served and now about to eat as plates of food were seen waiting under food lamps and ready to go. One Robin D. Thompson, of no relation to Rachel Thompson from earlier, spoke to the waitress. Thompson asks for the manager. The waitress then lies to him and tells Thompson that he's on the phone and reportedly rolls her eyes before leaving the table. Because their job was incredibly time sensitive, this actually forced the 6 men to have to leave and to go order down the street from the Roy Rogers. Oh, and by the way, I actually left out what these guys' official job title is by purpose. On purpose? English? So these 6 men that were actually part of that 21-man task force, well, they were all Secret Service agents. What were they doing that day? Well, they were actually chaperoning President Bill Clinton down to the Naval Academy in South Carolina. These are the types of stories that you hear in 1950s and fucking 1960s civil rights era America, where your granddad tells you stories about how we used to get sprayed with fire hoses back in the day.
Oh man! Missed it. Was it bad? Did they do the thing with the fire hoses?
What do you think, chump?
Damn. What's eating you?
A goddamn German Shepherd. That's what's eating me.
But, this was in 1993. The racism as far back as 1993 was so bad that working for the literal president of the United States could not stop you from experiencing it. This incident actually had grave consequences on Denny's as a whole. You see, we could just play devil's advocate and hear the manager out over his claims of this being quote-unquote a service issue rather than a race issue. Yet these 6 men were not having it. They have a legitimate discrimination case ensuing court. And later, over 4,000 claims of separate racially motivated incidents flooded in against the company. That's right, these actually aren't just 2 isolated incidents, as this has been rather commonplace throughout the company for quite some time now. And after this news, more than 4,000 other victims come forward, including high-profile cases such as a black federal judge from Houston, Texas, again, another government employee who was reportedly subjected to multiple hard R N-words by teenagers for almost an hour before being served after an 18-hour journey. Let's stop that right now. So, have you been anywhere in Texas, right? If you have been anywhere in Texas, it takes a fucking day and a half to get where you need to get, because Texas is so fucking big, right? I understand why he was probably taking an 18-hour journey. And other cases, such as this one, involving 6 black teenagers who were involved in a policy in which they were actually refused service unless they agreed to pay for their meal in advance, while the white diners were billed at the end of their meal. Also included in the lawsuit is our girl Rachel Thompson, now age 15, from earlier. So the following lawsuit was the largest in history at the time, and was all thanks to several Denny's employees and operators breaking public accommodation laws several times over. Public accommodation laws were set into federal law in the 1960s and actually called for an end of segregation and mistreatment of patrons of color in public establishments, i.e. bars, restaurants, public pools, anywhere people can congregate, you name it. These incidents eventually caused the company to settle the more 4,000 claims for 54.4 million big smackaroos. So if we take a minute here and do the math.
Boom! 2 + 2 is 4, -1, that's 3, quick maths.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna open our little John ski right quick, and we're gonna take our $54.4 million, and we're gonna divide that by 4,000 people. Yep, you can get a 2015 Kia Soul for less than the price of racism. How about this bad boy, huh? So, unfortunately, even after settling 2 whole lawsuits, the buck just doesn't stop there. Even more damning information about racial discrimination within Denny's surfaces, with ex-employees testifying in court, describing strategies taught to them by management at offending locations to either avoid or control large groups of black diners, whom were described as blackouts, which, to be honest, just feels racist, by falsely telling them that the location was either closing, or by making the larger parties of black diners wait for ridiculous amounts of time while the larger parties of white diners weren't subject to the same policy. Or simply just subjecting those black diners to sit where they could be easily seen because black diners had a tendency to leave without paying. Another former employee backed up those claims while testifying in court, stating that her impression was that the district manager was being pressured above his level to control and limit black clientele. And in '97, 6 Asian students of Syracuse University visited a local Denny's late at night. They waited almost a half hour before noticing that several of the white patrons were already sat. Then they complained both to their server and then to management, and then were promptly escorted out of the restaurant by 2 security guards. And according to the students' account of events, they were then jumped by a mob of white diners while having a bunch of racial slurs shouted at them. Now, picture this. You're the new CEO of Denny's. Earl Butler passed away in '96 due to a heart attack. You've just freshly inherited all of the company's public image problems. As a matter of fact, many prominent members of the black community is now calling you and your company racist. The company literally cannot afford to be racist because they paid a very hefty price tag for it last time, and having to pay another one might bring a bunch of unforeseen financial consequences for the company. So now what? How do you stop this from happening again? Well, to speed things up here, this story actually does have a happy ending. Denny's actually launches the biggest internal investigation in history. Years later, a bunch of goodwill efforts and initiatives to have a bunch of people of color working both in Denny's restaurants and in Denny's corporate actually earned them a bunch of awards. Namely, the 1997 Fair Share Corporate Award for Minority Business Development by the NAACP, and also getting ranked as one of America's 50 best companies for minorities in the year 2000 and 2001 respectively. The current day in 2023, Denny's is actually partnered with the Multicultural Food Service and Hospitality Alliance for more than 25 years now. They actually recently got in on the ground floor of a new program called the Pathways to Black Ownership. And last I checked, their latest goal was to create 100 new Black-owned Denny's within the next fiscal year.